Worried about gout? Check out Ural, the effective urinary alkalinizer. Ural, neutralize your uric acid problem now.
Good evening and welcome to KiniNews. I'm Sin Hao. Pakatan National Chairperson Muhyiddin Yassin had previously announced that he took responsibility for the coalition's performance in the Johor polls and was willing to step down as its chairperson. Now, an Umno Supreme Council member has called on Muhyiddin and Bersatu ministers to go one step further and resign from the government.
Umno Supreme Council member Mohd Puad Zarkashi has called for Bersatu ministers and its leader Muhyiddin Yassin to resign from the government. This was following Bersatu's poor performance in the Johor state elections. In a Facebook post today, Puad said the party performed badly despite endless campaigning and expenditure, which included preparing buses to transport voters during the election. He added that Muhyiddin had also attacked Umno and Umno leaders throughout Bersatu's campaign in Johor and questioned if it was dignified for them to remain in an Umno-led government. In a press conference following the conclusion of the Johor polls on March 13, Muhyiddin, who is the Pakatan National Chairperson, said he took responsibility for the outcome. He added that he would honor the wishes of members if a leadership change is desired and was prepared to step down. Pakatan National had contested in all 56 seats in the Johor elections but managed to only win 3 seats.
Kuala Nerus MP Khairuddin Aman Razali announced his resignation from PAS in a press conference in Parliament today.
Kuala Nerus MP Khairuddin Aman Razali has announced that he has quit PAS. In a press conference today, he said he had submitted a letter to PAS Secretary General Taqiyuddin Hassan in accordance with the party's constitution.
Maka dengan ini, saya Muhammad Khairuddin bin Aman Razali, pemegang nombor keahlian PAS 313899, memohon untuk berhenti daripada menjadi ahli PAS.
Khairuddin thanked PAS for the opportunity to be a member since 1989, ever since he was 16 years old, and for the 33 years he served in PAS. He also thanked the party for giving him the opportunity to serve as a MP and minister.
Saya juga mengucapkan terima kasih kepada PAS yang memberi peluang untuk saya dicalonkan dalam pilihan raya 2 kali seterusnya menjadi ahli Parlimen Kuala Nerus sejak tahun 2013 dan berpeluang menimba pengalaman sebagai Menteri Perusahaan Perdagangan dan Komoditi dari Mac 2020 hingga Ogos 2021.
Khairuddin added that he would hand over his monthly allowances as an MP to the party until the 15th general election. He said this was for the oath of allegiance he took before contesting in the election. When asked about his reason for leaving the party, he said that it was difficult to answer and said that he still loved the party. Khairuddin had recently openly criticized the party, which included for its performance in the Johor state election and PAS leaders' attack against UMNO.
Now, before quitting the party, Khairuddin had openly criticized PAS for several of their actions. Now, the most recent from this morning was on their performance in the Johor state election, including PAS leaders' attacks against UMNO.
PAS's mature and prosperous political culture, which is the party's policy, has been thrown deep into the South China Sea. This is according to Kuala Nerus MP Khairuddin Aman Razali, who renewed criticism against his party following their performance in the Johor state election. In a statement, Khairuddin said that the hardline attacks by PAS and PN leaders against UMNO or BN, which are still their partner through Muafakat Nasional, did not help to get votes from those who were on the fence. He added that the attacks were also not able to attract BN supporters to support PN. According to Khairuddin, PAS's leadership would definitely not admit to this reality in their post-mortem of the election. He added this denial syndrome and sweeping things under the carpet, if left unchecked, will eventually kill the party. He said open criticism should be accepted and it was not an act of rebellion or against loyalty. Previously, the former PAS Shura Ulama Council secretary had discouraged his party leadership from attacking opponents while campaigning in the recent Johor state election. This was after several party leaders came forward to hit out at UMNO's leadership. PAS, which participated in the election under PN, only won one seat out of the 15 they contested.
DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng has called on opposition parties to stop putting all the blame for their loss in Johor on the voter turnout.
DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng said there was no use in pinning the blame of Harapan's losses in the Johor polls on the lower voter turnout. In a statement today, he said this would be an act of self-denial to cover up the continued refusal to understand or address the root cause. According to Lim, BN had played dirty by ensuring there is no level playing field with the abuse of government machinery, media, and practicing money politics. However, he said opposition parties must face the harsh reality that they also have to bear some responsibility for their losses. He said lack of opposition unity caused by failing to use a common logo, a common vision, or any discussion of a MB candidate did not help. Lim also pointed at the fragmentation of opposition support, with many opposition parties contesting against each other as another problem. He said a big tent approach of all genuine opposition parties opposed to BN, excluding Pakatan National, must be pursued. Lim added that there is an urgent need to think as a coalition instead of solely looking at the narrow interest of one's own party. He said DAP cannot do it alone and would need PH to come along to address these issues.
Meanwhile, DAP Johor Chief Liu Chin Tong has called for Pakatan Harapan to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new formula for elections. He added that for now, Harapan will take on the role of a constructive opposition in Johor.
DAP Johor Chief Liu Chin Tong said Harapan accepted the results of the recently concluded Johor state elections and would play the role of a constructive opposition in the state. He said he had spoken to Barisan Nasional's Johor MB designate Hasni Muhammad to congratulate him and inform him of their intentions as the opposition. According to Liu, when it comes to policy making, they would take a bipartisan approach to reach a common ground for the benefit of the people in Johor. Liu added that Harapan needed to regroup and go back to the drawing board in preparation for the next general election, which could be called in the next few months.
The greater opposition must ask ourselves the hardest question and make major changes in order to rise again from the ashes. Whatever we have shown in this election, we may be able to still keep some seats as opposition, but we need an X factor. We need a new factor in order to be able to win government. At this moment, I think it has been shown very clearly that we fail to convince the voters that we are a viable alternative to the government. So that has to change.
Communications and Multimedia Minister Anuar Musa has disagreed with calls to dissolve Parliament following BN's victory in Johor. He said BN needs to be truly prepared for the general election before Parliament can be dissolved.
Communications and Multimedia Minister Anuar Musa said that BN needs to be truly prepared for the general election before Parliament can be dissolved. In a post on Facebook yesterday night, he said calling for a general election is not a small matter and pointed out how Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob represented a minority party with only 42 MPs in the Dewan Rakyat. He said he agreed with Ismail that whether BN is ready to face the general election is not dependent on the shouting of a minority group, which he described as being in a state of euphoria after winning the Johor state election. He added that during the Malacca and Johor polls, the state BN leadership could rely on the support of the UMNO headquarters, as well as leaders from other states to help in their campaign. However, that will not be the case in a general election, as everyone will be busy taking care of their own constituency. He said if the preparations, especially resources and finances, are not enough, the whole machinery will be paralyzed. Anwar added that the current administration is not made up of only one party and such. Discussions must take place within the government first. On March 12, Ismail Sabri was greeted with calls to dissolve parliament by supporters and UMNO members when he arrived at the UMNO headquarters in Johor. This was after BN won a supermajority in the state polls. Following this, Ismail Sabri had said that dissolving parliament is no small matter and this needs to be discussed seriously within the party.
And that's all the story we have for today. For more, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. If you would like to support independent media, do consider subscribing to MalaysiaKini.com.